The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello there, welcome to the show. Brought to you with Levi's Solicitors. Michael, we're doing the big three.
It's probate this time.
Home, away and third.
Yep.
Is probate away?
Probate's, yeah. People like it. It's not as controversial as conveyancing. maybe not as universally loved as wills. Who knows?
Absolutely. And what is probate? Explain it, because obviously you're an expert. Don't open the webpage.
It's the legal right to deal with someone's property, money and possessions, like their estate when they die.
Yeah.
It's like divvying stuff out, isn't it?
Yeah. Goes hand in hand with wills in many ways. It does, in the big three. But you can get a 10% discount on your legal fees, levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Dan here, along with Michael and Ed Cowburn as well. We are into episode 3 of a series of 4 here, talking about the Leeds United kits from the 23-24 season. The Adidas, the white, the Peacock, and then the fruit salad, rhubarb and custard.
Rhubarb and custard.
Well, that's coming in the next episode. In this one, we're going to talk about the away shirt, the Peacocky one. If you haven't yet seen episode 1 and 2, worth going back. It's on YouTube in your podcast feed, where we explain how we got to this point, because I think there are things that are pertinent in those episodes as well that'll help to explain some of the things we're going to talk about in this. Away kit, blue.
Yes.
So you kind of had this in the back of your mind, the away kit, throughout the whole design process, because Peacocks was the brief, but you designed the home kit first, but this was kind of always there in the background.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because I just knew that was the one where you can go wild, and it was. I didn't know at that point.
Is this going wild compared to the third one?
Well, I was just going to say, I think this is where I wasn't sure where the third would go. It felt like the home and the away were kind of there or thereabouts, even at that first point. It was just about like really honing it down and knowing the technical limitations, and building out the artwork. Whereas the third, which we'll get onto, that was a little bit more of a question mark, even at the early days. So yeah, this away version, it very much about limitations. From I wanted to do like gradients and have it so almost like I had a pearlescent feel to it. That was the early drawings, so that everyone was different, and it kind of it felt a little bit like it was feathers.
So is it a little bit closer to like the tracksuit top?
No, it kind of like where the home had the pattern running through. But if you imagine that, you had all the different colours of the peacock feathers.
Because there's quite a lot of green in there, isn't there?
There is, yeah, exactly. Sort of greens and teals and almost turquoisey, and there's actually the bit of brown in there as well, goldy kind of brown colours. So it's kind of moving all that around, and making it feel like dynamic and bold and loud. But early on it was like, that's not going to be possible. So how do you get that sense of being dynamic and contemporary with only using 3 colours? Because that's effectively what it is. There's the navy base colour, and then there's a green, and then there's a royal blue. So if you isolated that royal blue on its own, it's very close to a kind of, it's a little bit slightly darker, but it's very close to the kind of home kit blue.
Right.
And then using that mint on top as the accent colour. But effectively, yeah, I had to. How do you do peacock feathers with just 3 colours and still make it dynamic and feel cocky and and bold, you know? So it's kind of back to the drawing board a little bit. But one thing there's a few things here, but I took the shape of the pattern in the home kit and used that as the basis to create an individual feather for the away kit. Because again, it's like I wanted everything to kind of link, and could I actually put a design from home in the away in the third, and they all kind of flow together. So I took that one feather, and then I wanted to did a looking at the 90s kits and that use of gradient. And in the 90s, they couldn't do that perfect gradient thing, so they had to use one colour and just dot it like a print, a half-tone print.
Like a dot matrix printer almost.
Exactly, exactly. So it was like, I went onto the iPad, I think, and like putting dots, literally that kind of like pointillism art style of just putting a dot and trying to fill that space and create a feather. And as I was doing it, I was like, there's a lot of dots here. It took me a long time. And
are all those dots hand drawn? Each one?
Well, on a computer.
Yeah.
So, but you know,
That's
so
what I
you
meant,
just
yeah.
it's one size, and you're just repeating it and placing them in the right place. And as I'm going through it, I'm like, I wonder if I could do 1,919 dots.
Right.
Per pattern, just to really nerd out and, you know, make sure that it absolutely has to be, you know, a Leeds United feather pattern, and I did it.
No way.
People will now be getting their shirts out of the cupboard and counting.
Just
so you know.
Good luck. Good luck. Maybe some of them are hidden underneath and they kind of blended together, but I got my computer to kind of count out, you know, and tell me how many individual shapes there are, and yeah, it was.
I mean, that is an excessive level of nerdiness that I absolutely love.
Thank you.
when you're drawing something like that, because obviously you could do that, because it's made up of thousands of dots, it's going to be different every time you draw it. Is that one effort? Is it one effort with you pressing undo a few times as you put a dot in, you're like, oh, I don't like that dot, that's a stupid dot.
Yeah.
Get rid of that one, and then are you shuffling around, replacing it?
Yeah,
how long does it actually take?
There's probably... I know it's probably a day's work just kind of getting that first feather kind of done, and then obviously you've got to then work out to position it to create that repeat. And I think at that initial point, it was, I don't think the colours were agreed. So, you know, I might have had 2 or 3 different colours. So then I'm working out how you might be able to change those colours depending on the production. So it then went off into to Adidas to kind of decide, and they've got a standard set of colours. You know, their version of the Pantone kind of references. So then they changed them. So, you know, and then it gets to the final one. But it took quite a long time. And then as we mentioned in the last episode, as we're sort of bringing it all together, it's like, right, okay, let's zoom in a little bit. Let's start to play with the pattern and go, right, what happens if we kind of move it out? So where the home kit, they're quite small. What happens if we zoom in? Suddenly you get a very different feeling, you know, to the way it looks. And then you twist it a little bit and you're like, oh, okay, this is starting to, you know, it feels different. And it doesn't feel like you've just taken the home kit and done it. It feels totally unique again.
So is that why you turned it, basically, to give it more dynamism?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the extra thing that I always wanted to do with it was, can we put the pattern on the socks? Yeah,
that's one of the first things I messaged you about when I saw the away kit. I was like, those socks, you naughty boy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To go back to your original sort of vision for the shirt then, you were saying you wanted a pearlescent feel to it. Would that, if you were given complete autonomy for it, would that have been achieved then with different textures within the material in the way that certain sort of older Leeds shirts have been? I'm thinking of like the kind of early 90s era one where you can see like there's a pattern almost printed within the fabrics and different textures within it.
You're thinking like a good example of like the Admiral ones from like 92 where you've got like the pixelated pattern underneath as the ink, and then on top you've got that woven kind of like, I think is it Admiral badge and Leeds badges repeated all the way through. They don't tend to do that. Excuse me, don't tend to do that much these days. It's cost. So you know, that's why the idea of doing that kind of more pearlescent just was off the table from the beginning. Right. I think different brands do it different ways. So if you look at Nike, for example, they probably would be more up for that kind of thing because they tend to do a lot of dye sublimation where they'll do each jersey, each shirt is printed and then it's cut out and sewn up. Whereas all these are done by huge rolls of fabric being created. So, you know, my artwork went off. It's a tiled artwork. That's the other thing to kind of mention through all this. So they tile to 60 centimetres wide. It's the biggest that they can do. Everything repeats perfectly. And then it's off to the printers and those huge rolls come out. And it's why when you look at the, you know, even though it's still dye sublimated because you can see the white underneath from that original thing.
You mean on the inside?
On the inside, yeah. So it's not like, you know, it's not actually kind of woven in a factory. It's still pressed in, but it does mean that every single kit is unique. So where the pattern is on each shirt doesn't you'll see, if you compare them, if you go to the shop and compare them,
slight
you could actually choose which one you want.
Right.
That's unique to which. I don't think they make enough of a noise about that. I think that's really cool that what you get is kind of your choice and no one else has got it.
So the standard thing that comes up every year is, why is it not yellow, Ed?
Why isn't it yellow?
Why is my away kit not yellow?
Have you seen?
What have you created that monstrosity for? And why is it not yellow? Because I'm in my 40s and I remember yellow away kits, or older.
You can get peacocks that are devoid of any pigment, which is quite something. So there's your home kit.
Right.
I haven't seen any yellow peacocks.
No. But what do you say then when you're designing this? And it's, I am being slightly glib with this because
you're right. You're right to be. I think it's a huge talking point. I think with all Leeds fans, and I'm one of them. Yeah. And I think a yellow away kit is kind of part of our DNA, but. Contemporarily talking, that every club seems to do this. It's not just us, and I know we always kind of look in our own bubble and focus totally on our own club, and rightly so. But most clubs have that same issue, and that fans of our age, would always hark back to kind of it should be this colour. I think it will happen. It's just for this year specifically. The concept was such that it wasn't going to fit with it. Yeah. So if I had kind of another opportunity to do it, then I'm totally up for a yellow. Of course I am. You
could have made life very easy for yourself by just getting the home kit and switching the white with the yellow stripe. Just turn those around, and people would have gone, perfect.
Oh, well, yeah. There was. I mean, that happened, didn't it? There was loads of, especially when it got to the third. There was so many people sharing that, well, I've taken it into Photoshop, I've got the home kit, and I've given you an away kit that's yellow, and I've done a third kit that's blue. Bob's your uncle, there you go. But, the wider picture here is always, we're trying to do new things, trying to be... I don't want to say disrupt. I've just said disruptive.
The disruptor mindset.
Yeah,
I think that word will forever be associated with the previous owner.
Yeah.
But then that taps back into ideas of his son designing the third kit, and that's why I think it's probably dangerous ground to stray onto. But I get the point that you're making. It's you can't forever do the same thing always, can you?
No, and it is very much, especially with the third kit. The mentality is, and this is across all brands as well. It's there to try and do different things and cater for a new fan or a slightly, fan that's coming from a different position or a different place in the world or wants to wear a shirt in a different way. Unfortunately here there wasn't that room, I think, to have yellow. So
this peacock pattern then, were there any stipulations around the sort of peacock side of things? So what's come from the club when it comes to this peacock theme? Because you've got peacock ideas, they've got peacock ideas, and you've met somewhere in the middle.
So from early on, I think this was in the original brief that I was kind of brought in on was, what about peacocks makes sense historically and, from a design perspective. So the first one was aggression. So the fact that the feathers of a peacock are used for scoring and intimidating predators. So I think I put the word scoring in, but mating.
Yep.
And I kind of like that about having a kit that references that. I think all blokes would like to think, and women as well, of course, but would like to think that they could go out on a Friday night and wear a football kit and score.
Do it all the time.
Yeah. The next one was bold. So peacocks is actually one of the loudest animals in the animal kingdom. 125 decibels. Can hear it 5 miles away. Mm-hmm. I think you can draw your own.
The Ellen Road thing is there. Is obviously,
absolutely.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's fearless.
What noise does a peacock make? Bark, bark. Is it that?
Michael?
Look at me.
So I'm deliberately trying to trip you up now. Go on.
Well, have you ever lived near a peacock?
Not often. No.
So my
they don't have peacocks in Bradford, Ed.
They do.
They?
They did
Sunday lunch.
So my wife's family lived in near Bingley.
That's true. Up St Ives way.
And there was a peacock that lived on the estate, and it was incredibly loud, and to the point where I think it, had a bit of a sticky end.
I bet it was
very loud.
I bet it was eaten by Ken Bates. I'm going to put this one out there. I bet he used to eat peacocks every Sunday.
Every Sunday, yeah.
Just to spite us.
So so Fearless defends its territory again. I mean, there's so much here. I think that it is being a Leeds fan, and then it is an authentic Leeds United story, which we touched on in episode 1. So I think when you kind of look at all those, each as we go through each kit, it's like, can we be more bold? So. And fearless with the design that we're putting out there. So
because those are ideas that don't always sit easy with the traditionalists of of a particular vintage and older. People say, why are you being bold? Just do the obvious thing. What we were saying before about the yellow. So is that sort of playing in your mind when you're designing this, or do you have to kind of to a certain extent put the blinkers on and just say, no, I'm going to stay focused on the brief here?
Definitely stay focused. And then just have the fear as it gets closer and closer to launch. Thinking, is this going to resonate?
It's a bell curve, though, isn't it? Like there's the outrage, and then over time, when people get used to it, and you see a couple of wins in it, which we've not actually won in the blue kit yet.
Or the third.
Although we are likely to wear the blue kit at Southampton, and we're recording this ahead of Southampton, I should say, just to properly timestamp it. But sorry, go on. Yeah, in your mind.
Yeah, no, the fear is absolutely there, and traditional kits are front and center of my mind, but we don't live in the past.
Talk to me about tonal badges.
Tonal badges,
because then they're another bugbear of middle-aged men the world over.
Yes, yeah, no, certainly. But if it can help, once this was decided, if you put a normal Leeds badge on here, doesn't look right. It does that yellow, and we're back to yellow again. Yellow's a difficult colour to work with, I'll be honest. I think we covered this in our previous pod. It's like, it's not the easiest colour to have. It doesn't sit well next to white. If you put it too close to blue and it's too far away, it does start to look green. So yeah, I tried it, and it was clear to me that this is the Peacock story. This is what has to be done.
Mm-hmm. But you got 1919 dots, so that's fine.
Yeah, and I got some cool socks as well.
Yeah, you got your cool socks. Now that's a point to make. Were you ever tempted to do the shorts in the same design, or are you glad that they were plain? Or what's the beef with that?
There's a fine line, isn't there, between doing a design like this, putting it on socks and shorts, and ending up looking like a kind of pair of weird. Or pair. Is it a pair of pajamas? Pajamas are plural, but pajamas.
A set of.
Yeah. I think you can go too far. We had a version that had the mint shorts to go,
which are on sale in the shop.
Which are on sale.
Yeah.
So there was a question about which we would prefer to go with the shirt. I've always had navy in my head.
Because it's the base colour, isn't it? It makes most sense to me as well. But so those shorts, am I right in thinking that because of the different kit rules between the Premier League and the EFL, that so essentially, as you were saying before, we were laughing about the fact that you designed the kits with UEFA guidelines in mind, and here we are in the Championship. But the kit rules for the Premier League say that you can have alternate shorts, whereas I don't think you can in the EFL. Can you? Is that right?
It's a different set of rules, but interestingly, one of the other rules is I think that they're not quite as strict about wearing clashes of kit. So, example being that I honestly thought that for Millwall and for Ipswich that they'd wear the third kit. Mm-hmm. And I think if it was in the Premier League, they would have done. They would have been quite, strict about that.
That's weird, because I always thought that the kind of it had gone the other way, because the Premier League always allowed the short clashes. Because when we've played Man United, we've worn the all white.
Yeah, that's true. And then in which case, I don't know anything, and somebody somewhere is making it up as they go along.
Yeah, but then I think the short clashes have become a far more recent thing in the EFL, because traditionally I expected us to come down, and like you're saying, I'd expect us to wear the third against the teams in blue, but. What do we know?
I'm not sure. I'll be honest. It's definitely something to bear in mind. We've not mentioned it, is the fact that all three kits have been designed with a sense of who are we playing and how is it going to clash, because that's the whole point of kits, right? So if we've got a white home kit and it was always going to be a dark, and you kind of put two and two together, you know, in the weeks that, you know, before the kits were launched, is like it makes sense where the next one is going to go, because you've got to bear in mind that QPR and Sheffield Wednesday are in this league. So that's where a yellow kit does fit in really well for Leeds and for most clubs. Excuse me. You know, that you get have a yellow kit, and apart from Norwich, you always know that there's a kit there that you can wear. Yeah. So yeah, blue, white. Should we get onto the third kit? Let's do it.
Look out for that then in your feed, audio and video as well. It's on YouTube. It's in your podcast app. We'll talk about what has officially been designated rhubarb and custard, Ed. Rhubarb and custard?
Yes.
Yeah, so look out for our chat about the third kit coming next in your audio and video feed.
The Square Ball Podcast.